So science and religion.
Science. You said
what's your perspective
on science and
on
religion?
Science and religion?
I said they're the same.
Why do you say that?
But I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
Okay.
Because you said you ask a lot of people this question, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What was the best answer you've heard so far?
I said they can coexist because there are things that can be scientifically explained, and then there are things that can't be scientifically explained. So those two, I feel, and what I agree with is there can be a place for both, but for me, I don't think one can just overpower the other.
Right.
I think it's one of those things that it's kind of like a yin and yang, right?
The balance between the both of them.
Exactly. It's important. Like, there are people who just feel like straight science, like,
and they are, and they're very like, they don't want to hear anything
else.
Yeah. And it's like, but touch into your spiritual side. Go on.
But then there's also people who believe that no science. This is no
this
science.
This part of that brain, we don't need it.
Exactly. And so it makes you like question. Like, I sit here and I'm not super like, I don't read the Bible like that. I maybe read a verse or two here and there. I think we should.
Yeah. I think now with this perspective, the Bible will speak to us differently than we have been taught in the past.
Exactly.
That's religion.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so many things that contradict themselves.
Absolutely.
That's why I question, like, and people are like, oh, you should never question. I'm like, no, why not?
You should. That's where the science side of us comes out.
Exactly. And so, to me, there's just things that don't add up. Like, when you read certain things and then geographically, you're like, hold on, that doesn't make sense. Like, someone here in this place cannot look like this. It's impossible. It's physically impossible.
We've genetically changed to our environment, just like animals, because we are animals. All humans are. We've come from animals. We've come from the sludge and the water, and we've evolved through our spiritual consciousness on this earth and become more and more aware of our existence and why we're here on this game called planet Earth.
And that definitely that's like one of the process which I've heard and I always ask myself, like, okay, if the Bible says this, but it persecutes people for whatever reason, this person who we call God, if they are all forgiving, how can you persecute someone for whatever? That contradicts itself. It's a huge contradiction. So you can't say you're forgiving, like you forgive wholeheartedly, but then persecute someone. Those don't add up.
That's why
it's weird.
That's why Jesus literally made the sacrifice to come down to earth to teach people the separation of that religion. That's why he would flip tables in places where they were like, this is religious, but they were making coin off of it.
Yeah.
The church had grown too greedy, and he was like, all you have to do is just love each other. You just love each other, and you can do what I can do. And he was trying to break that disconnection of that we are all gods, that we've all made the choice to come down to earth. We've just forgotten who we are because that's the game on earth. And it goes hand in hand, because there's so much science behind us evolving on this planet, and there's so much that we've had the true source of like where we've come from too, but there's so much to it. My 12-year-old sister in Georgia, her name is Carmen, she thinks that just like looking up at the galaxies, those look exactly like the neurons in our brain. So we're just probably inside of someone's mind right now too. It depends on how deep you want to go with being in this physical reality.
So do you ever feel like, I'm glad you said that, because as soon as you said that, popped something in my head, and I've thought about this like a lot,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Do you feel like we are like in this glass dome, right? And
it kind of looks like that, huh?
Yeah, and someone is just like in control of us, like literally watching everything we're doing, and that's how I feel. Like sometimes maybe it's just a weird way of thinking. I don't know, but sometimes I really feel like, like, man, we're like in a glass dome, and someone's literally just like, is this really planet Earth? Like, are we aliens? Like, because you don't know what your whole mindset of what an alien is, what you see on TV, right?
Totally different perspective.
Who knows exactly? And I feel like there's truth to everything.
Yes.
You can't put something out without having some sort of thing that inspired that triggered that.
Yes.
So when they're like, oh, there's no life out there, I'm like, impossible.
Have you seen our sun is just one galaxy.
Exactly.
One
out of
millions and billions and billions. Do the Trump, you know what the fuck I'm saying. But like, okay, so Ram Dass has said that nothing is created, it's only remembered. And that's why it triggers, you're like, oh fuck.
Deja vu. Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. Yes. Good. I don't know who I had this conversation with, but that's my boy James. We were talking about this. It's like, dude, deja vu, because it's something you remember.
Yes.
So you had to have remembered it from somewhere. So
genetic DNA.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so crazy. Yo, I love that. I love having like talks like this. People people feel uncomfortable.
They do. They're like, oh, I don't know how to feel.
Exactly. I'm like, no, just say what you feel. Like, it's okay. If no one's always gonna agree with what you say, and that's fine.
That's true. I love everyone's opinion. I want to know like what their thought process is about, on the same topics. So it's like we can evolve together. It's like the more people share like their perspective, because if I feel the theory of oneness, where everybody is just a mirror reflection of themselves and a different body, then it's like your whole life is your perspective that at this moment in time that we get to share with each other, because we're downloading the information that I've learned through my whole life and you've learned through your whole life to have this conversation. And each time you meet someone, it's kind of like that over and over and over.
Yeah.
Same with like relationships, back to the soulmates. You gotta learn those people that were in your life that you dated needed to be in your life
for a reason.
Every single one of them.
And this is still a point that I struggle with. Like, people are like, yo, don't waste my time. But I've been told that, look, it's not time wasted. It's just a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Because it's a lesson you needed to have. And even though you don't agree with that lesson, or you don't necessarily like that lesson, it's okay. You learned from it, and you knew what you liked, what you didn't like, and you wouldn't have had that if you hadn't been with that specific person.
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, when you think about it that way, it does make sense, So
is that the spiritual side or the science side, or both?
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough.
You asked.
Maybe both, because now you're having a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So that
but
comes
who's in control of the lesson if we're in this glass dome of the Matrix?
If that's the case, are we just puppets in someone's?
Who's really in charge?
Exactly. These are questions. Hey, boom. These are all like things that people don't think about, and people need to think about.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I just remember and listen and learn, and same with you. Thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah, of course.
This has been fucking whoa.
Yeah, that's wow.
What's your name again? I don't even know who you are.
This is Tim with an E, not an I.
That's a really dope name.
From Texas.
From Texas. All the cool people live there too.
Yes, facts. 100%. Best state in the U.S. You say that.
Time to go. Show us.